Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this launch webinar of the upgraded Export Potential Map. My name is Julia Spies. I'm the Chief of the Trade and Market Intelligence section of the ITC, and I'm going to moderate today's session. So perhaps before we actually start, I can give you a quick outline so that you know what to expect. We are going to start with some opening remarks by the EU representative, Isabel Emerson. Then we'll have a live demo where you can see the new features, the new functionalities of the tool. We'll have a mini panel discussion because we also want to hear from our users and share their experience. And then you will have the opportunity to ask your questions during the Q&A session. Before we start, I wanted to say really thank you to all of you. We were very overwhelmed by the interest that this webinar has generated. The available spaces were sold out very quickly, so we are running with a full house today. And I think this interest that this webinar has sparked is a reflection of the trade context that we are currently experiencing and living. Where we have a lot of uncertainties. We've had a multitude of crises already in the past years. We have sudden policy changes that require us to adapt. So for that, we need a compass. And we believe that the Export Potential Map, along with some of the other ITC market analysis tools, can serve as such compass. As you know, the Export Potential Map helps identify traditional and new markets with growth potential, as well as products for diversification. And this is precisely what is needed today, right? We need to diversify our economies. We need to unlock trade potential that hasn't been fully explored yet. We need to access new markets, find new partnerships, and all this with the aspiration to increase our economic resilience. And this is exactly what the purpose of the Export Potential Map and the other market intelligence tools to provide such information. And we are very glad that we have with the European Union a long-term partner in this endeavor. The Export Potential Map originally was launched in 2017, and very shortly after, the EU came on board and started supporting us, and since then has also remained on board, which is very important. I believe that we share here a common vision with our partner and this vision is that trade intelligence needs to be accessible, it needs to be timely, and it needs to be reliable. And if that is in place, it can really level the playing field and change something for SMEs in more vulnerable contexts, because only with the information we can really navigate this increasingly complex, this very dynamically evolving trade landscape. And through these tools, we make our contribution to ensure that trade can support the well-being of people. And therefore, we are very grateful that the EU also accepted to give opening remarks today. And I don't want to make you wait any longer. So the floor is yours, Isabel. Isabel Emerson is the team leader of the private sector engagement and employment unit in the European Commission's Directorate General for International Partnerships, but she doesn't only have this headquarters view, she's also been working in the field in Angola for a long time. She has 20 years of experience across multiple agencies, so she has a very holistic view of what trade development is and also what is needed to make trade development better and serve us all. So with that, the floor is yours, Isabel. Thank you for accepting to give your opening remarks.
Thank you, Julia, and hello to all that are participating. Indeed, timely and reliable data is a challenge, and it's one we face very often. So with that, I would like to say that we have a very long-standing and fruitful working relationship with ITC, and this partnership has been important to operationalize and scale up our strategy, the Global Gateway. More relevant, as you mentioned, on the current context of changes. We in the private sector engagement and employment unit are currently implementing a 5-year project together with ITC, the Global Public Goods, providing trade and market intelligence for informed trade decisions. This project is in second phase of implementation and contributes to enhance sustainable trade and increase business opportunities between Europe and our partner countries. This reliable data and trade and the market intelligence data is crucial for businesses. And this tool provides strategic data that informs decision making that is relevant. As we know, international trade is governed by complex laws and standards that vary country by country. These tools are key in assisting companies to manage risk arising from changes in tariffs and also ensuring compliance with regulations. Well, from here and from our partner countries as well. Of further importance, the insights on export potential give companies an important competitive advantage. With this in mind, and many more, the market intelligence tools developed and managed by the ITC provide invaluable information that are shaping the focus of our EU business fora. These are events that our delegations organize in partner countries, and it really is to promote European investment and trade with partner countries that benefit both us and our partner countries in areas that are of mutual interest, and thus contributing to create stronger market linkages. I personally look forward to hearing more about the event map and thank the ITC team for their dedicated work in this important tool. We believe this will be instrumental to guide your and our trade and investment strategies and opening opportunities around the globe. With that, thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of this meeting.
Yes, thanks again. Indeed, this is what we want to support. We want to support strategies of governments, but also the trade advisory support that business support organizations give across our partner countries, and work directly or advise directly also the private sector of new opportunities. My colleague Kaylee will lead the live demonstration of the tool and show you a few examples of relevant information that the tool shares as of today. So I don't want to keep you waiting for any longer. The floor is yours, Kaylee.
Thank you very much, Julia and Isabel. All right, so I am going to get started with this demo, but just to introduce myself, my name is Kaylee Stevens, and I am a market analyst with the Trade and Market Intelligence section of the International Trade Center in Geneva. I work on the Export Potential Map team, so today I'm going to be showing you our new and improved Export Potential Map. So I am going to start by sharing my screen, and I hope you all can now see my screen with the Export Potential Map. So the website for Export Potential Map is the same. It's still exportpotential.intrasend.org. If you Google Export Potential Map, it should be the first result that pops up in Google, so easy to find that way. And what you're seeing is the new redesigned Export Potential Map. For those of you who are familiar with Export Potential Map, I'll be showing you the new features, the new design, new things that we've incorporated. But for those of you who are coming to Export Potential Map maybe for the first time, I will also be talking about the underlying model and how you can interpret the data and the numbers that you find in Export Potential Map. So the first thing that veteran users may notice is that you can select export potential or product diversification right from the main menu, right from the home page. And for those of you who are new to Export Potential Map, basically Export Potential Map covers two types of goods. We cover established export products and new or nascent export products. And Export Potential Map is just for goods. We do not cover services in the generic version of Export Potential Map. So we have these two products, established export products, and new export products. What we mean by established export products are those products that have been exported continuously for 3 years, imported continuously for 5 years, or which meet a certain threshold. So they have to have at least $200,000 in export potential or be among the top products that together account for 95% of a country's export potential. And if a product doesn't meet those conditions, it could be considered a sort of a nascent export product. So maybe it's been exported, but not consistently. And so then it's going to be a product diversification opportunity. So product diversification is going to cover those sort of nascent export products, but also new export products. So products that are not currently exported. Now, product diversification data was available in the previous design, but users reported that it was a little bit difficult to access. So in this new design, we wanted it to be very clear how you can find export potential and product diversification data. So you can reach it either from the home page or from the menu by clicking on Explore Export Potential or Explore Product Diversification. Now, as we scroll down, we're going to see another new feature of Export Potential Map, which is this interactive map on the home page. And we can look at export potential or product diversification. So for export potential, for example, we're looking at export potential. We can hover over Fiji and see that 54% of Fiji's total export potential remains unrealized. And we may want to know how we can tap into that unrealized potential. So we can click on Explore Products or Explore Markets to see where that unrealized potential is. A new feature that we have is this information on product diversification. And we've incorporated some information on the concentration of export products. So for example, if we look at Malawi, we can see that Malawi's export products are highly concentrated, meaning that few products account for a large share of Malawi's exports. Now, we may want to know how can we diversify Malawi's export products? And by clicking on this link here, we'll go to the product diversification data. And we will see this example a little bit later in the demonstration, but first I want to start with the export potential data. So we're going to look at Fiji and we're going to click on products. Now we are looking at export potential. So export potential is for established export products. And if you need a reminder of what established export products means, you can find this definition in our updated glossary. So these are products that Fiji is currently exporting to the world. And when we are inside export potential, we can look at export potential basically in 3 different ways. We can look at it by product, by market, or by exporter or supplier. And we'll see those different views throughout this presentation. So we are starting on the products tab. So we are looking at the top products, Fiji's top products with export potential to the world. And we are looking at the top 50 products for Fiji in the world market. Veteran users may notice that the menus here are different. Now you have more control over the number of top products that you see. So for example, if we want to look at the top 51 products, we can simply click this little arrow here. We can drag this bar down here, or we can just type in that we want to look at the top 50 products. We also have some metadata over here. And for example, if we hover over apparel, what this is telling us is that within the apparel subsector, Fiji has 56 products with export potential to the world. And when we look at the top 50 products for Fiji in the world, 10 of those products are in the apparel subsector. So this is a little bit of additional information about the number of products with potential by subsector. and the number of products that you're viewing. We also have the ability to deselect all. So if you just want to look at products in the apparel subsector, you can say deselect all and then just click apparel. I'm going to go back to viewing the top 50. We've, as in the previous version, the products are color coded by their subsector. So apparel products are orange, but we've tried to make these colors a little bit to stand out more so you can see what color goes with which subsector. As we scroll down, we also have this additional information here, which we are calling our key performance indicators, which help you contextualize the export potential and unrealized potential for a particular product. So what I mean by that, for example, is that if we hover over prepared preserved tunas, we see that Fiji has an unrealized potential of 95 million in the world market. And we can compare that to Fiji's unrealized potential for all products in the world market. And we see that unrealized potential in tuna represents about 18% of Fiji's total unrealized potential for all products. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what these numbers mean and how to interpret them. So I'm going to switch to the gap chart view. Right now we are in the tree map view. And I want to look at the top 20 products. All right, so we're going to hover over tuna prepared or preserved. And we see these numbers. And so the first number we see is 155 million. And what this number is an estimate for the dollar value of exports that could be achieved in the year 2029. So Export Potential Map has estimates for a specific year. This information was available in the previous version, but it wasn't displayed prominently. So in the new version, we've put it up here in the front just to make sure that it is clear what year we're talking about. So this means that by 2029, we expect that Fiji will be able to export $155 million worth of prepared or preserved tuna to the world. The next number we see is 69 million baseline exports. This means that Fiji is currently exporting $69 million worth of prepared or preserved tuna to the world. And when we say currently exporting, we actually mean an average of 5 years. So we're using an average of the period 2019 to 2023 with higher weights placed on more recent years. In the previous version, this was called current exports, but we felt that that created confusion, so we've renamed it as baseline exports. And next we have unrealized potential remaining in individual countries of 95 million. This means that by 2029, we expect that Fiji will be able to export $95 million more worth of prepared and preserved tunas to the world than they are currently exporting. So for me, this is maybe the most important number that you're going to find in Export Potential Map because it signals the room for export growth. So we really want to focus on the markets and the products that have the most potential for growth in the coming years. And as you will notice here, we can actually sort by export potential, baseline exports, or potential to exports baseline gap. So we can sort by this to find the products that have the most room for growth. And indeed, prepared and preserved tuna is the product with the most room for growth. Now, one thing that you might notice about these numbers is that 155 million minus 69 million does not equal 95 million. It actually equals 86 million. So you might say, what is going on here? So what is happening here is that there are certain markets in which Fiji has already exceeded its potential for prepared or preserved tunas, while there are other markets in which it still has unrealized potential. So let's find out what markets those are. So we're going to say for this product, find markets. And now we are on the markets view. So we are looking at the exporter Fiji for tuna. So we're looking at the markets with the most potential for prepared or preserved tunas from Fiji. And you'll actually see that we have the United States here. So we're sorting by export potential, but we want to sort by potential to baseline exports gap so we can see those countries that have the most room for growth. So when we do that, United States actually gets sent to the bottom. So if we hover over the United States, we can see that they have export potential. Fiji has export potential to the US of 59 million, but their baseline exports are 68 million, meaning that they've already exceeded their potential. So what does this mean? This means that Fiji is already exporting more tuna to the US than the model expects is feasible by 2029. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Fiji should stop exporting prepared or preserved tunas to the US. It just means that the US is not necessarily a growth market for Fiji in the coming years. So why might that be? Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the model behind export potential map. So export potential map, the model has three components. It has supply, demand, and ease of trade. So supply is going to look at a country's world market share in a product. So it's going to look at Fiji's world market share in tuna projected to 2029. And so when we look at Fiji's world market share, we also are going to look at how its world market share in tuna is going to evolve compared to other exporters of tuna. So we want to know, by 2029, how is their world market share going to evolve compared to other exporters? The next component is demand. So we're going to look at the US demand for prepared or preserved tuna, projected to 2029. And then ease of trade is how easily Fiji and the US trade with each other relative to their economic size. And so just to go back a second to talking about the supply component. So because we are projecting Fiji's world market share of tuna into the future and we're comparing it to other exporters of tuna, it might be the case that by 2029, Fiji is actually going to lose out market share in the US to other exporters of tuna. So that might be one reason that Fiji doesn't have unrealized potential in the US by 2029. And we can actually see that by, we're selecting for this country, find exporters. Now we are on the exporters view. So we are seeing the top exporters of tuna with potential to the US. Here's Fiji, and we can see these other countries, Thailand, Ecuador, China, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. These are countries that they're actually Fiji could potentially lose out market share for tuna in the US to these suppliers of tuna. So that could be one reason why Fiji doesn't have any unrealized potential remaining in the US market. Just to go back one step. So to go back to what I was saying earlier about why you have this sort of wacky thing here where 155 million minus 69 is not 95. It's because we don't want cases like the US, cases where Fiji has exceeded its potential, to sort of cover up opportunities in other countries. So when we aggregate unrealized potential at the global level, for example, we're only adding up the cases in which Fiji has unrealized potential remaining. So we're only adding up these unrealized potential in these countries. All right. So now I want to switch to another example. I'm going to switch to looking at exports of dishwashers from Korea. So we're going to look at a specific product, and we want to look at the markets that have the most potential. So we're going to stay in the markets tab. We're just going to select Korea, and we're going to select dishwashing machines. So now we are looking at the top markets with unrealized potential for dishwashing machines from the Republic of Korea. And as you can see, actually the countries that have the most room for growth are the Russian Federation, Vietnam, Australia, France. But we may also see that the country where most of South Korea's dishwashers are currently headed is the US. This little circle here is going to indicate baseline exports. So we can sort by baseline exports. When we sort by baseline exports, we see that the majority of South Korean dishwashers are currently going to the US. If we sort by export potential, we can see that the US has the most export potential for dishwashers from South Korea. But again, we really want to look at unrealized potential. So these are the markets that have unrealized potential for dishwashers from South Korea. But I want to talk about the US for a minute here, because as you may know, the US is currently implementing an additional 50% tariff on steel and aluminum products and steel and aluminum and their derivative products. And this actually applies to dishwashers. So dishwashers from analysis we've done on our value chain studies are actually about 40% steel. And so the steel content of dishwashers is now going to be subject to a 50% additional tariff in the US market. And so if you want to find an alternative market to the US because you don't want to face this 50% additional tariff, export potential map is the key to identifying sort of alternative markets with potential. But I also want to talk now about the assumptions that we make about tariffs and export potential map. So our model that looks at supply, demand, and ease of trade also considers tariffs. So in the case of this product, dishwashers, well, in the case of all products, what we assume we are assuming the applied tariffs that are officially notified to the WTO. We are not taking account of trade remedies. So in the case of dishwashers exported from the Republic of Korea to the US, they actually qualify for a preferential tariff of 0% when they enter the US. So we are assuming a tariff of 0% in the US market. So even when we are assuming a 0% tariff for the US doesn't have any unrealized potential for dishwashers from Korea. The export potential map does not take account of this 50% additional tariff because that is currently considered a trade remedy in the US. So please just keep account of that when you are looking at export potential map and see estimates for the US. But even when we consider a 0% tariff for dishwashers from Korea and the US, we have exceeded our potential, so the US is not a good market to focus on anyway. All right, so just to talk about how to tap into these opportunities. So let's say that you want to tap into opportunities in Australia for dishwashers. So the Republic of Korea has 13 million in unrealized potential for dishwashers in the Australian market. That means that by 2029, we expect that the Republic of Korea can export $13 million more worth of dishwashers than they are currently exporting to Australia. Now, how can we tap into this potential? So unrealized potential has two sources. One source is dynamic unrealized potential, which is going to come from GDP and population growth. And another source of unrealized potential is static unrealized potential. So these are things that are currently inhibiting trade. So these could be things like issues complying with non-tariff measures, difficulty finding buyers, or a product mismatch between the product and what consumers are demanding. So in the case of this static unrealized potential, to tap into it, it's really important to talk to exporters and understand what issues they are facing. So talk to South Korean exporters of dishwashers and saying, when you enter the US, when you're entering the Australian market, what issues do you face? Why are you having difficulty exporting to Australia? In the case of dynamic unrealized potential, this is potential that's going to be realized over time as supply and demand grow. So the way that we can tap into these opportunities is to make sure that the country is investing in additional production to meet the additional demand that's coming in the future. So now I want to end by looking at a case of product diversification. So what we've been looking at so far is export potential. So we're seeing for established export products, which countries have unrealized potential, what are some potential new markets that we could export to. Now I want to switch gears and look at new products. So we're going to take the example of Malawi because we saw that Malawi was not very diversified. So we're going to select Explore Product Diversification. It's going to default to South Korea because that's what we were just looking at. But I'm going to start over by looking at Malawi. Okay. So now I want to talk about the model behind product diversification. So the product diversification model, like the export potential, looks at supply, demand, and ease of trade. Demand and ease of trade are calculated in the same way they are calculated for export potential. But supply is calculated differently because in export potential, supply is calculated looking at market share. So we have data on exports. But because product diversification, we're talking about new products, we have to estimate supply differently. So the way we're going to estimate supply is through an indicator called density. So density is based on the concept of product space developed by Hausman and Hidalgo. And it basically looks at how likely it is that a country can export a new product given the products that it currently exports and the export baskets of other countries. So at a very basic level, for example, you'll have a country that exports apples and you'll have another country that exports apples and pears, and product diversification will suggest that that first country could also export pears because there is this other country that exports apples and pears. Unlike the numbers that we get in export potential, which is a dollar value of exports that could be achieved in a specific year, product diversification ranks product diversification opportunities. So it ranks products that are the most likely to have success based both on sort of this density, the proximity to a new product, the demand for a product, and the ease of trade between two countries. So in the case of Malawi, we can see that the top products, top diversification opportunities are maize, palm oil and fractions, and cashew nuts. We can also find market opportunities for these products by hovering over maize, and we can say for this product, find other potential markets. So you'll have your original search here where we're looking at products for Malawi in the world, but then you also have markets for maize from Malawi. And it suggests that Mozambique, Kenya, and Zimbabwe could potentially be markets that would import maize from Malawi if Malawi were to develop the maize industry. Now, going back to these product diversification opportunities, I want to emphasize that this does not indicate that the country has the production capability to produce maize necessarily. It just means that based on the other products that Malawi exports, maize could feasibly be a product that they could diversify into. Another thing that I want to mention is, as I mentioned before, If a product is not considered an established export product because it hasn't been exported consistently for the past 3 years, it could show up in product diversification. So in product diversification, you may have new products that are not currently exported, but you also may have products that are exported in low quantities. So that's why you may see a case where you say, yes, my country actually already produces this. Why is it in product diversification? And that is why it will be there. And product diversification really should be used as sort of a starting point for research into potential diversification opportunities. It doesn't, as I mentioned, doesn't necessarily suggest that you have the capacity to produce these right now. This brings me to the end of my demonstration, but I want to show you where you can find resources to help you navigate Export Potential Map. So if you click on resources, we have this new and improved help center, which actually includes the ability to search across all our resources pages. Excuse me, sorry. So for example, if you want to type in unrealized potential, you will find the glossary entries that include references to unrealized potential. It will include the FAQs that reference unrealized potential, as well as the publications that talk about unrealized potential. And so we have our FAQs here. You can see all FAQs. We have the glossary, and the glossary has been updated and expanded. So it includes new definitions, but it also includes improved definitions. So hopefully the glossary now will also give you sort of a non-technical overview of the model behind Export Potential Map, including how export potential and how product diversification are calculated. We also have this data and methodology section. If you click on our methodology, it will take you to our underlying methodology paper. And we also have data sources and correspondence tables, which I will talk about now. On data sources, you're going to find all the information about the data that is currently being used in Export Potential Map. It shows you here that export potential is an estimate for 2029. And it shows you what data we are using. So for historical export and import values, we're using 2019 to 2023 from ITC's trade map. For data on tariffs, it's coming from ITC's market access map. Have information here on price elasticities and distances, which are used in the model, as well as our GDP and population growth projections. So importantly, these GDP growth projections are coming from the IMF World Economic Outlook. So because that IMF World Economic Outlook is updated twice a year, it's updated in April and again in October, that's also when we're going to update Export Potential Map. Export Potential Map is updated twice a year following the release of the IMF World Economic Outlook. And once a year in October and November, we're going to update the end date, the estimate year for Export Potential Map. So in October or November of this year, we're going to update Export Potential Map estimates to 2030. I next want to talk about our correspondence tables. So one thing that you may come across in Export Potential Map is something that doesn't necessarily look like an HS6 code. It will look like 1701XX. Excuse me. So this is what we call a product group. Because we use historical trade data to estimate export potential, and sometimes there are revisions in HS codes, or you have different countries using different versions of the HS classification, we have to create product groups. So when you see something that doesn't look like an HS6 code that has an X in it or some other letters, it's a product group. And by going to correspondence tables and typing in that the name for that product group, you can see which HS6 codes are included. I also want to mention that Export Potential Map it covers many products, but it does exclude some products, such as oil. So we're going to, export potential map excludes extractive industries, and in the new and improved export potential map, we've indicated which products are excluded and why they've been excluded. Now, this information was available in the previous export potential map, but it wasn't easily accessible and it wasn't included in the correspondence tables. So in the new version, it's going to be in the correspondence tables, and you can see why a product has been excluded. So that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I want to thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm going to turn it over to the panel discussion.
Thank you, Kaylee, for what I find a very clear and comprehensive presentation. I hope it already answered some of your questions, but if you have additional questions, the Q&A section is already open. So you find a button saying Q&A on top of your menu, and you can already start asking your questions. The team is going to review them, classify them, merge them sometimes if we have many people asking similar questions. And in the meantime, we are going to hear from our users. So we have today with us two of our partners and users. I would like to start with Whitney Devines. She's a research and statistical analyst in the Policy and Strategy Directorate of Trinidad and Tobago's Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism. And in her role, she works a lot with data. She has to monitor export performance, find new markets, contribute to evidence-based policy making. And she has been partnering with us already since a couple of years. Trinidad decided to develop their own customized and embeddable country version and include it into its single electronic window. And hence, I would want to hear from Whitney how she has been using the export potential map in her work in the statistics and research department, and how it has been useful in helping her to, yes, perform her day-to-day job.
Good morning, and thank you, Julia, for the introduction. The EPM here is actually a very well-used tool for myself and my colleagues at the Ministry of Trade. We mainly utilize it for reporting purposes, especially when we want to compare our trade with international data. So we see it as a very accessible tool in itself. We also use it to compare whether we have products here that might have demand, untapped potential.
Great, thank you. So you're using it in your daily work to identify trade opportunities for Trinidad. Is this information something you use in reports, you use to advise companies, you use in discussions with the government? How are you bringing in these pieces of information?
We use it a lot mainly in reports as well. We also utilize it if we have different training sessions with private sector individuals, manufacturers. We try to encourage them to utilize the tool. So for someone who is now getting into export, we would recommend that they go onto the platform, see what products, see where their products might have demand and stuff. So we usually try to encourage more of the manufacturers and the private sector to utilize the platform. But of course, we here utilize it for more data-driven policy research. If we have to produce reports, cabinet notes, and stuff like that, we would utilize the data to put into those documents.
Thanks. Yes, while you have been a long-term user of the export potential map, I believe,
Yes.
And I guess this is the case also for some of our participants today. There might be also people who have not come across the export potential map before, and this is actually also the case with our second panelist today, Elamir Mohamed Osman, who is a national coordinator of the She Trades project in Egypt. And in his role, he's supporting women-owned businesses across different sectors, and he's assessing their export readiness, connecting them to global supply chains, and also facilitating their market access. And Amir has been using some of our market analysis tools, notably TradeMap, and he has recently also discovered the export potential map. So I would like to know from you, Amir, if you may, how you think the export potential map can complement the other ITC tools in your work.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Greetings to everyone from Egypt. Actually, in my position, I'm working with many SMEs and also with BSOs in SheTrade's project. In phase 1 has been successfully implemented, ended in 2022, and now we are starting a new phase. So I think one of the importance, one of the very important support is to enable either SMEs or BSOs, business support organizations, to know more about the new tools and new technologies, helping them either on the level of institutions to increase awareness about available tools for increasing the productivity and information gathering and analysis. And this is something I see from the presentation today and from the launching of the new update or version of Export Potential Map will help a lot these institutions and SMEs to improve their performance, each one in their mandate. And myself personally, I would like to present this in the coming phase of SheTrade's already started this year. And this is very good, like using technologies and ITC tools in easy way and improving this. So I prefer the features that the new version or the update will help a lot, especially SMEs to set their directions and will complement to the existing tools that commonly used, like the TradeMap.
Thanks. Thank you very much. So maybe back for a moment to Whitney. Whitney, Trinidad has decided, as I already said in the introduction, to develop their own tailored version of the Export Potential Map. Where do you find the benefits of having this own country version of the Export Potential Map beyond what the generic version already offers?
I think the benefits are it's more accessible. So for someone who isn't familiar with the tool itself, we have it on our national platform. So it's there and it's very accessible for them to see. And we also opted to have the tutorial links as well. So if they aren't familiar, we have a breakdown as to how you could utilize the tools and the benefits that it could bring, how you could use it to help find new markets for your products and stuff like that. So once you click onto the embedded version, it goes automatically to Trinidad and Tobago products, and then from there you could now click a product and then search new markets for your product. So it's much easier for them to navigate on the embedded version.
Do you have any features in this customized version that wouldn't be available in the generic version, or is it more really the accessible factor that makes it interesting for you?
It's more the accessible factor. We do have similar features as the generic version. I don't think there's anything much different beyond once you go onto the our version, it goes straight to Trinidad and Tobago, and you don't have to spend time looking for our country, putting in that type of information, looking for our products. So it just makes it much more easier for someone here to navigate.
Great, thanks. And maybe final question then to Amir. So you already spoke about maybe complementing more the Export Potential Map with the other ITC tools in your work as a national coordinator of the She Trades project in Egypt? Do you have any concrete ideas of how you would bring the Export Potential Map in, how they could complement your trade support projects in Egypt?
Yes, I believe that in our planning for She Trades that we usually work on two directions. One direction is capacity building and for both the BSOs and the SMEs. So I believe we will plan definitely to conduct workshops either with local consultants who are updated with the new tools of ITC and other tools as well. For the BSOs and for the SMEs, each will be delivered in the way that suiting and fitting the purposes of each group. Also, during my communication and coordination with you, with the ITC and my colleagues and my peers in the ITC, we can plan to conduct awareness sessions customized to these two groups in Egypt, giving use cases and examples that fitting the environment of the Egyptian businesses and Egyptian economy, which I believe it's global, but I think we can still customize this kind of workshops. This can start with awareness, and then it can go deeper with more technical sessions and implementing. And at the end of the project, we will also measure and monitor and evaluate how the institutions and SMEs could benefit using this, and we'll give a feedback to ITC because this is part of our work, is to also having on the ground feedbacks, monitoring and evaluating the efficiency and the impact of such tools in the market.
Yes, indeed. I think this is extremely important that we have this linkages to on-the-ground work, that we link it also to our hands-on projects with businesses, policymakers, and BSOs. And we are very glad to have you, Whitney, and maybe also the participants to this webinar as our ambassadors in their individual countries. So, team, could you let us know if you have already received some initial questions? You can still also ask your questions by clicking on the Q&A icon on top of this page, and you can submit your questions. But do we already have questions?
Yes, we do.
Yes, thanks.
Yes, so we have first a question about the functionality to download on the export potential map. Maybe, Kylie, you can highlight a bit this functionality and show how we can download and what comes out when we download the table of the map or the tree map, please. We can't hear you for now.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Great. Okay, thank you. All right, so let me show you what you get when you click download. So if we, for example, take Fiji, if we click download, it's going to download the chart. So you'll basically get a download of this chart showing the products. Well, so it's actually showing the subsector of the product. And you can use these downloads to you can use these charts to put them directly in reports that you may have to write. I expect that this question is actually about the data underlying export potential map, because we often get requests for the underlying data. And although export potential map, the website itself is free for all users, we do charge for our data. In the Our Services tab, you're going to get information about the price ranges of the data. So we charge based on how many countries you're looking for data for and where you are based. So if you are interested in the underlying data, please contact us and we can discuss how best we can support you.
Yes, I believe this section about pricing is going to be further developed in the tool. That is going to make the data access options much more clearer than it was in the past. So you will see already ranges. You will see also the discount to which you qualify, depending on whether you are from a developing or developed country. And you can from there then directly send us your order, and that will make it much easier for you to see and have an idea about the cost of accessing the raw information.
Thank you. This is a perfect transition, because we also have questions about if export potential map data can be available by Excel file or via APIs. And someone also asked if we could have a look at the Trinidad and Tobago export potential map website, maybe.
Yes, so regarding the format of the data, it can be, we do provide data through Excel files or through APIs, so that's really according to the preferences of our partner. So that's up to you to tell us in which format you would prefer to receive the data, but both options are definitely feasible. Customized versions are available. We have several of them. I'm not sure, would you feel comfortable, Kaylee, quickly showing maybe 2 or 3 of them, just to also see the different options and the different versions of how we can customize? Because we really try, when we engage with a partner, we try to assess the needs and the economic and trade context of the countries, and depending on what the country prioritizes, whether it's to make the website more accessible to their users, or whether it's to analyze a certain dimension that is of particular importance for that country, we tailor then the country versions to this country or to this user.
Yes, absolutely. So I did actually want to show where you can find all the different customized versions that we have created. So I'm going to share my screen here, and just I'll start over so you see how I got here. Okay, if you go to Our Services, as Julia mentioned, this page is being developed, and it will allow you to submit your requests for data or APIs directly to us and allow you to see the price. Right now, we just have placeholder prices, but if you go to Custom Solutions, you will see customized versions of Export Potential Map, and you have here a link to our portfolio. So if you click on that, you will see all the different customized export potential maps that we have created. For example, here you will see Trinidad and Tobago, as well as all these other ones. So I'm going to, I'll, for example, show you CARIFORUM. So I've opened it here already. So this is like this is the customized export potential map for the Caribbean Forum. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the generic export potential map doesn't include services, but sometimes we are able to incorporate services into customized export potential map. So for example, CARIFORUM does include export potential for services. And we also, you know, in our customized versions, you know, you have the ability to look at the countries, you know, in this case, CARIFORUMs, you can see the unrealized potential in each of the CARIFORUM countries in the world, but you can also see their potential within CARIFORUM. So it gives us the ability to look at unrealized potential in in groups that are not available in the generic version. So, you know, CARI Forum is not a group that's available in the generic version, but Export Potential Map CARI Forum does include that. So I think that's a really nice benefit here. So for example, you can see that, so for example, Trinidad and Tobago they've already realized 46% of their potential in CARI Forum, but they have unrealized potential remaining. So we should be able to, for example, select products, and now we can see the products for Trinidad and Tobago that have, the most unrealized potential in the CARI Forum market. Now, most of our custom versions are still using the old design of export potential map. So that's why you're going to see a difference in the design between the generic version and these customized versions. So just if we select gap chart, then we select potential to baseline exports gap, that's where we're going to see the products that have the most unrealized potential for Trinidad and Tobago and CARI Forum. We can also, for example, change to services by service, and here we're going to see the services for Trinidad and Tobago with the most potential in CARI Forum. And with services, we are only able to estimate export potential. We're not able to estimate unrealized potential because not all countries report bilateral services trade data. So when we can incorporate services, we do, but we don't estimate unrealized potential. We just estimate export potential. To show you another example, we have we've developed an export potential map for Flanders. So this is just looking at the Flanders region. So it's looking at the potential specifically for this region in Belgium. We are able to do this when countries can provide us subnational data. So Flanders was able to give us subnational data for Flanders, which is why we were able to develop this version. And then perhaps the last one I want to show you is Tunisia. So I'm just going to switch to the English version. So in Tunisia, for the Tunisian export potential map, we were able to incorporate both goods and services, and it's available in English, French, and Arabic. So Arabic, the generic version of export potential map is not currently available in Arabic, although we do have plans to incorporate Arabic. But with these customized versions, we are able to incorporate additional languages that we don't have in the generic version. And Yulia or Sian, are there other customized versions you'd like me to show?
No, I think this is good for now. Do we have additional questions?
Yes, we have one question related to the embedding of the tool. Someone is asking whether the current version that are embedded into their website will be updated to reflect the new features.
So normally we would update to the new design when we have a new phase in the project to also ensure that we have the resources to develop these new design features, and if our client would want to update the design, because maybe some clients prefer to keep the old design because maybe people are used to it or for other reasons. But we would discuss this when we enter into a new phase of the project. Yeah, this is the moment where we would discuss design options.
Thank you. We also have some technical questions. If we can go back to the methodology and explain which data sources we use and what kind of data are taken into account in the export potential map, and where people could find more information about this.
Sure. Yeah. I will share my screen again so we can go back. Okay. So this is the generic export potential map. I'm going to go to resources. And so the first thing that I will say is that if you want to read the methodology paper, you can find it here under our methodology. I would also recommend reading the glossary entries. So you can click here to find all glossary entries, and you can look at, for example, export potential, and then you can look at demand, supply, ease of trade, unrealized potential, and hopefully the glossary should give you sort of a very sort of non-technical basic overview of what's happening in the model. But to your question, which is more specifically about what data is being used, I would recommend going to data sources. And so this is where you're going to find the sources of our data. I think data sources, I think you should really use it in combination with the glossary and with the methodology paper. So you sort of can connect the methodology with where the data is coming from. So as I mentioned, the model looks at supply, demand, and ease of trade. And so for those supply and demand, we're using exports and imports, and those export and import values come from trade map. And the data in trade map comes from primarily national sources. So our team is collecting that data on a monthly basis. So it's coming from national sources, but also from UN Comtrade. But we give priority to national sources. The model export potential map model also uses information on current and future tariffs, and that tariff data is coming from ITC's market access map, which you can find here. The model also takes account of price elasticities, so how demand is going to change for a given change in income, and price elasticities are coming from GTAP. We also look at distances, and distances are coming from CEPI. A very important part of the model is how we project supply and demand into the future, and we project supply into the future using GDP growth projections from the IMF's World Economic Outlook, and so we're using projections to 2029, and we update those. We update EPM twice a year when the IMF WEO is released. So what we're currently looking at is, so we're in July, World Economic Outlook was released in April, so we updated export potential map in May with those new GDP projections from the IMF. To project supply, or to project demand into the future, we're using GDP per capita. So we're using both the GDP forecast as well as population projections, and those population projections come from the UN. We're also using something called land endowment by climate type. That's something we use in product diversification. Because we want to make sure product diversification isn't suggesting erroneous products. So if it suggests a country could produce pineapples, we're going to look at whether a country has the land endowment and the climate necessary to produce pineapples. So that's that information is coming from GTAP. And something that I want to say about our GDP projections. So as I mentioned before, export potential map is not is not taking account of trade remedies. And the reason that we did this is because in the past, the understanding was that trade remedies were sort of temporary. They weren't going to be there permanently. And so we didn't take account of them. But in the case of in the US, they are becoming sort of more permanent, but they're also changing. They're changing on a daily basis. So although, for example, the example I used for South Korea and dishwashers, although we are not taking account of that 50% additional tariff that South Korean dishwashers are going to face in the US, although we're not taking account of that tariff, we do take account of the impact of tariff turmoil to the extent that it is accounted for in the GDP projections of the IMF. So the IMF is definitely taking account of the uncertainty that these tariffs are creating in the global economy. So please know that to the extent that that is reflected in their projections, that is incorporated in our model. And I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you. We also have another question about trade in services. Do you have a methodology for evaluating trade in services, or do you plan to do it in the future?
If you want, I can take that one. So yes, so some of our customized versions have trade and services modules, or modules that allow you to assess the export potential in services. As Kaylee explained, services statistics are usually not as granular and as comprehensive as trade in goods data. And that shows, for instance, in the fact that many countries, or very few countries in the world, actually report bilateral trade and services data. So we do know usually what are the broader services sectors that they export. We know what are the broad services sectors that countries import, but we do not know with whom a country trades its services. And for that reason, we don't have the baseline exports to which we can compare our potential or estimates of export potential in services. And that is why the information that we have for trade for export potential in services, even when we are developing a customized version with such module, is a bit more reduced. We do have activities to improve the collection of services trade data. So this is one of the very important activities of the section of the trade market intelligence section in the ITC. However, this is a process. So if your country already reports this bilateral data, or if we have supported you in collecting this bilateral data, in this case, we can indicate also the untapped potential, so we can have information at the same level as we have for trade in goods.
Thank you. I think we have two more questions. The first one is, do you plan to have any user guides, video tutorial, and others on your resource section?
So yes, we are yet to update some of our video tutorials. In terms of user guide, we have the resource section available with a revised glossary page with new FAQs, with also a new methodology paper. Its methodology has not evolved dramatically, but we have also reflected more recent developments. So that is available to you also through the Help Center with more easy search functions. But yes, the redevelopment of the video tutorials is yet to come. Yes, I'll leave it there. Katie, anything to complement?
No, I can just show people how they can reach the video tutorials quickly. Let me just do that quickly.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. So under resources, we have video tutorials, and you can say view all videos, and you'll have sort of explanations here, different videos on navigation, and then you have some short videos here showing how export potential map data can be used in certain contexts. So that's where you can find that. And just to note, when you watch these videos, they will be using the old design of export potential map. We are planning to update these videos with the new design this year. So that's just where you can find them. And yeah, I really recommend taking a look at the new glossary. It's much more expanded than it was in the past, so hopefully it can answer your questions about how to interpret the data that you find in export potential map. And related to resources, I also want to mention that you can also find our latest publications. You can say view all publications, and you can see the different publications that we have released. And this page will also include filters, so you can filter by language, region, and topic. So that will be a feature that's developed shortly.
Hey, thank you, Kaylee. I just want to remind everyone that we will share the recording of this webinar on YouTube. So please don't hesitate to go to our YouTube channel that is called Market Analysis Tools. And in the following day, you will be able to see the webinar there, and we will also send you the link by email. And now, last question to transition to the last slide. How can we contact you?
So I'm going to share my screen. I shouldn't have stopped screen sharing. All right. So at the bottom of the page, you will find Contact Us. And I'll show you that in a minute, but you can also connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. As Sian mentioned, on YouTube, we have the market analysis, the Trade and Market Intelligence YouTube channel, which has many videos, including past trainings, so video tutorials on Trade Map, tutorials on Euromed Trade Help Desk, on all the other tools that we have, also how to navigate trade uncertainty with the market analysis tools. So I really recommend our YouTube channel as a sort of invaluable resource. And if you click Contact Us, you can get to our email. So you can contact us at marketanalysis.intrason.org to to ask us your questions, but also if you would like to know how we can better support you with customized or tailored research or data or trainings. And I'll stop there. Julia, would you like to add anything?
No, thank you. I think this was good. Before you leave, I think we want to hear back from you if you liked this webinar, if you found it useful. So please, before you leave, kindly answer this poll, kindly rate this webinar, and we will take this feedback then also into account. There are two questions. First, how satisfied are you with this webinar? And second, how likely you're going to use the export potential map in the future? And with that, I believe we have come to the end of our session today. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for your interest. Do stay in touch. We hope to hear from you through our market analysis mailbox. We hope to see you in the public webinars that we organize twice per year, or interact with us through our social media channels. Thank you very much.